I want to ask you about your take on the kind of overlap between conflict resolution in a workplace and conflict resolution in a family, and managing your kids versus managing employees, and what you kind of notice about the similarities there.
How to put this politely, but there are a lot. I mean, the amount of CEOs or founders or whatever that I speak to, and then they're like, it's like dealing with children. And I'm like, yes, yes, it is. Like, I don't know what it is, but I think sometimes people in an employer-employee relationship, sometimes you do kind of revert to that sort of child-parent kind of standpoint, because you feel like they're telling me off, and then you feel like you need to rebel, and then they get all moody and miserable, and you want to just say, go to your room and get over it.
Oh, hilarious.
So
you're right though, yeah.
there are strong overlaps, I can't lie. I don't know, but when you're dealing with teams of people, it's funny how the sort of herd mentality kicks in as well. And so people suddenly all start thinking the same thing, and it's like it's actually because they're all just like whispering to each other in their breaks about it and stuff. So there is, sometimes I do say it's like being at school again, or um, when you're dealing with a team member being really difficult, and you're just like, can't you just grow up and just like deal with this issue? Like it's no fun, but can't we just deal with this? So yeah, there's lots of overlaps. Does it mean I'm particularly brilliant at conflict resolution at home? No, I don't think I can't say I'm like an absolute master of it, because, let's be honest, your own children, they're the ones that push your buttons the most, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
My thing that I do with my kids is sometimes it's like when I can feel the rage bubbling. So mine are 9 and 11 now, so we're in a slightly different phase. But yeah, when we're like trying to get out the house and everybody's still up in their room, like putting their socks on or whatever the flip they're doing, and I'm like, Shouty Mummy is on the way. I'm like, we've got 2 minutes to get out the door, and if we're not out the door in 2 minutes, Shouty Mummy's coming. And they're like, okay. So, I sort of sometimes I try and preempt it. Sometimes it's 0 to 100 and I can't help it, and Shouty Mummy arrives with no warning. But sometimes I do try and preempt it and just like, guys, I can't do this anymore. It's the classic like put your shoes on. Again, weirdly, I made a reel about that. Like I did this like fake, like put your shoes on, put your shoes on, put your shoes on. And then I showed it to the kids and they were like, was that this morning? And I was like, no, but it could have been, couldn't it?
It could have been any morning.
Could have been
Let's be
any morning.
honest. What is it about shoes? Honestly, it's painful, isn't it? And everyone seems to have the same issue.
But bring it back to employees. It's the same thing. It's like, the big thing at the moment, and I did a LinkedIn Live with 5 Hour Club about this the other week. It's about flexible working. And everybody's like, I want flexible working, I want flexible working. But what they not willing to be as flexible themselves. They only want their employer to be flexible. So then they get annoyed when their employer's like, well, we can't work like this. And they're, well, you're not being very flexible. It's like, no, they're being really flexible. It's you that's not being very flexible. So this is what I mean about this like parent-child thing, that you're kind of almost having to deal with like defensive toddlers, and you're like, no, guys, please.
When you put it like this, I don't know how you have any energy left to parent your own children at the end of a day. It sounds, especially if you have to like mask, through the day. You can't just say to, an employee of a client, like, you can't tell the client to just tell them to F off, or just tell them to pull their socks up or put their shoes on, or whatever it might be. You can't just, you have to be like very particular, compliant, follow the procedure. Like that's what you're for. And it gives your client peace of mind. But you have to be very professional about it, regardless of what you're hearing, from your client, and whatever story said employee is coming out with that is preventing them from doing their job, whatever it might be, to kind of like just deal with all of that and absorb it, and then go home and like deal with your children that are perhaps equally unhelpful that day. I just think it must be absolutely exhausting.
I mean, but that's motherhood, right? Sorry to
Yeah.
say, but, like, I mean, when is it not? I don't know anyone who has a job where they go home and think, "Oh, wonderful."
So pleased to have another shift. Yeah.
Now I've got to deal with these chumps that I birthed instead.